Hey, what's going on, guys? My name is Brandon. Welcome to Audio Addiction, where you can find latest album reviews. You can find our band interviews, and you can find other music-related content on the channel. I post Monday through Friday at 5 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So if you're new to the channel and you happen to stumble across this review, thank you for watching. Thank you for sticking around. Thank you for hanging out. I really always greatly appreciate it. But I post a bunch of content in relation to music, so if you are interested, check it out. I'll also be doing reviews of Hollow Front's newest record, Jordan Coffey, Zombie Shark, and I'll be streaming some older records over on my Twitch channel, which is audioaddictionmedia. You can check that out. A link will be in the description to go check that out. But tonight, we're going to be talking about Make Them Suffer's newest record, How to Survive a Funeral. So I've been a pretty big fan of this band for a minute. I had checked them out when Worlds Apart had just come out, and I think I was kind of like in between checking out like Ether, as well as like Lord of Woes / Old Souls. Never Bloom's great. I went back and listened to like their whole discography. Huge shout outs to Paul from the Wise Man Fears. He's the one who put me onto this band, and I absolutely love what they're doing currently and what they've done in the past as well. I think just their whole anthology is very cool. But they had recently signed to Grayscale / Rise. They've been on Rise Records, and I was very stoked to check this record out. Like I said, I really enjoy Worlds Apart. So I was curious how they were going to follow that record up in conjunction to this one. And the album is technically out now. It was released June 17th, but if you want a physical release of it, is releasing July 13th. So I know people are getting their physicals in now, but I know that the digital release was last Friday. So if you are interested, check it out. I would highly recommend it. And I'm going to go through each track, give you my thoughts and opinions on it, go through some pros and cons, and then finish it out with an overall rating. So the first track is called Step 1. This one starts off very cool. I love this sort of dark, like ethereal kind of undertones. I've really felt like they do minor kind of tonalities super well. And this kind of plays off that just a slight bit. I like this subtle bit of choir in there as well. I think it offers a unique sort of like atmosphere sort of thing going on in the track as well, along with the sort of clean guitar riffing from Nick, which he is a fantastic guitar player, so it sounds very good on this track in particular. But the silence breaks at around the 58-second mark with Sean's great screaming. Really comes out the gate pretty strong in this track, even though it's pretty much an instrumental / intro sort of track, but the instrumentation after that 58-second mark just gets super heavy. It's just almost like one long breakdown in a sense, but again, really well done, executed pretty well. It's a nice little heavy introduction track to get the record off. So we're going to move it into track number 2, which is Falling Ashes. I do like the kind of transition between Step 1 and Falling Ashes. I just think it kind of bleeds in super well. But I will say about this track in particular, if you're a fan of older Make Them Suffer, this one is definitely in your up your alley. I think the introduction of this track, along with the kind of blast beats and the guitar riffing on that track, is definitely reminiscent of like Never Bloom, Lord of Woes / Old Souls. It definitely has that older school MTS vibe to it, which is awesome. As well as just the song in general just sucks you in immediately. I love how that Sean just shows off his range as a screamer pretty much immediately from the record. He has some really awesome gutturals as well as some kind of fry / higher pitched screaming going on here. I think his range is just really incredible. Again, he can go super low in terms of the like real kind of like deep tonality to it, but also really hit those those like high, really cut, really biting sort of screams as well. So he finds that nice middle ground in his like normal tone, but he can really hit it really super high, but he could also have some really awesome lows as well. The bridge is definitely where you'll get the most reprieve in this song in particular, especially from the sort of blistering instrumentals that kind of surround this bridge portion of the track. But I really appreciate the piano in this track. More specifically, I think Buka offers some really haunting parts, as well as just being in tandem with some really great string organization going on there as well. I think, again, further sets that sort of darker, brooding undertone going on in this track. I will say that 2 minutes and 17 seconds, that to the end of the song, is just nuts. You know that portion of the song is coming. However, it just still doesn't prepare you for how hard that portion of the song hits. So really enjoyed this one a lot. Again, if you're a fan of older MTS, then this one is definitely gonna be up your alley. So we're gonna move into track number 3, which is called Bones. They just released a music video for this, I believe on Friday as well, so you can go check that out. Very cool music video. I think it plays along super well with the sort of lyricism that Sean has written in this track. So the kind of the metaphors going on lyrically also play really well into the kind of music video aspect portion of the song. But getting back to the song particularly, I have to say, God, that riff that Nick does at the beginning of this track is it is so good. I love it. It's probably one of my favorite riffs currently right now. I can't help but go back to this track every single time. It definitely reminds me a lot of Blood Moon from Old Souls, which is, again, a major compliment because that track swings too, but it just got like a great rhythm. It's got a great swing to it, and I love that. I also like the addition of piano from Buka as well towards the lighter half of the riff as well. And there's this nice little slick tempo change at around the 47-second mark, as well as some like interesting kind of synth lines going on in the pre-chorus of the song, which I feel like will be a reoccurring theme throughout this entire record, and in future songs off this record in particular. The chorus sounds huge. I love the kind of like almost cleans / yells that Sean does in the chorus. I thought that was very solid. Again, kind of being further backed up by Buka's clean singing as well, while hers sounds a little bit more faint, and Sean's has a little bit more, more of that direct of center sort of sound to it. I also think that it's just a nice change of pace. It's something that's not, I would say, particular to them. If you have listened to Erase Me, you know that Sean does clean singing on this record, and I think he utilizes it pretty well, not only in this track, but in other tracks that we'll be talking about later on. But I really enjoyed this as well. I think it's probably one of the stronger tracks off this record. It's definitely one of my favorites, and it just keeps me coming back. That riff just keeps me coming back every single time. Nick, that was a god tier riff in my opinion, and I don't know, man. It's just so good, so catchy, it's so riffy. Definitely great. So we're going to move into track number 4, which is Drown With Me. This is one of the singles that has been released. I think this was the second one after Erase Me. I dig that little drum solo at the beginning from Jordan to start off the song, and just that fill he does at that first break. Super nasty. I think a lot of people are going to I think the drumming is going to fly over a lot of people's heads. Obviously, people are going to be like, yeah, blast beats are sick, but I think some of the the more subtle, more nuanced kind of drum parts are going to be like, I felt like swept under the rug. And that one little like drum riff going on there, super awesome. Really enjoyed that. But that first verse, man, it gives you that stank face. You know what I'm saying? Like when you're listening to that song, you're just like, oh yeah, like that thing be hidden. You know what I'm saying? Is it reinventing the wheel? Absolutely not. Is it heavy? 100%. And it's again it's nothing too crazy, it's nothing too outlandish, but just something about it. Just, I don't know, whenever I hear a heavy track, it just gets me in that mode. There's some nice pianos leading into the pre-chorus where we hear some of Booka's clean singing as well. I would say more so in the I would say more so like the first time particularly. I feel like in Bones it was a little bit more muddied, if to put it lightly, and I feel like this one gives her more of the spotlight in terms of the clean singing as well. So it was very cool. I mean, again, if you're including the addition of her and Bones, then this would technically not be the first track with clean singing with her on it, but I would say that this one feels to me like the first song that she did. At first, I didn't really enjoy this song as much as a lot of the other songs off the record, particularly. I think the stark contrast between these really kind of riffy, bouncy verses the more melodic / beautiful choruses going on in this track in particular. It was just a little bit, it was a little bit too much for me, but after I kept listening to it, it just got better. I think the song structure didn't really make sense to me at first, but I've really come to love it, and I'd say I also really enjoy the chorus a lot in this track as well. I think it's just because it's so jarring. It's something that, again, not a lot of people kind of cut to when you're like, oh my god, there's these really great riffs going on here, but at the same time the chorus has this really kind of nice polish to it, and it's just really interesting. I like how the second chorus gets extended, so there's a little bit more clean singing going on there as well. But this one makes it absolutely memorable to me. As being one of the singles, it's one that I've heard a little bit more frequently than the others. But overall, I think it works as a single, but I think it works pretty well in the record as well. At the 3 minutes and 15-second mark to the end of the track, is this classic tale of play the guitar riff slower meme, but I don't know, man. It just works. I love that riff. I love when bands kind of like just take that riff and they're like, hey, that riff we just did? What if we like did it but slower? And I don't know. It just hits super well in this track, and I think it has a lot to do with Sean screaming. He really sells this portion of the track home, and it was one that, again, I was fully invested in, fully enjoyed, and is one you should go check out because it's out right now. So we're going to move into track number 5, which is Erase Me. This has just a lot of aspects of why I love MTS. I think they are one of those up-and-coming bands to me. If you haven't checked them out, I would highly recommend it, especially if you're into heavier music. I would say more closely aligned to heavier metalcore / deathcore. I feel like you'll like this band a lot, but again, I really enjoyed this song in particular. It was the first single that was released, and I was hooked immediately. That melodic piano, courtesy in the introduction, courtesy of Booka, just accented by those like blistering blast beats and that guitar riffs to follow, are just super solid. I think Sean opens up the first verse with a really strong performance, but I think the person that kills it the most in this track is Booka, in my opinion. I think she really knocks it out of the park with an incredible performance in the choruses. She does a great job of making them memorable. Is probably one of my favorite choruses off the entire record. And there's many times when, again, I could have just been like, what? I don't like, I can't count how many times on my hand that I've played this song in particular, especially when it was a single. I probably played this over a couple hundred times easy. The song feels like it has that sort of Worlds Apart Volume 2 sort of vibe to it, which again, I appreciate considering that was kind of the first introduction to MTS that I was involved with. So I feel like I have a little bit more of a camaraderie with this one, but I think it really kind of improves on aspects and expands into new territories. I would say more specifically in the bridge, I think a lot of people were taken by surprise with Sean's actual clean singing and not like a yell or like or anything in particular. He was definitely doing his clean singing, and I think it sounded pretty good, like considering that he does, a plethora of different screams. I would imagine his voice, is pretty solid. So to add clean singing to that arsenal is just, it's just really cool, and it's cool to see him progress as a vocalist. And I really liked that part in the bridge. It was really solid. I also really enjoyed the call and response aspect to the song, especially in that last chorus portion of the song. Structurally, this song just feels like it could stand on its own, but it definitely finds its home in this record, which I think is pretty rare in my opinion. There's songs that I enjoy as singles and that I've played a ton of times, but I feel like there's less of a rarity in terms of songs that I really enjoy as singles that fit super well into this record. And I think this one just does a great job of kind of, compiling aspects of this record in particular, but also being able to stand on its own and be like, this is a single track, like people are going to enjoy this one too. So really enjoy this one. Check it out if you haven't already. It's been out for a little bit, but nonetheless one of my favorites. So we're going to move into track number 6, which is Soul Decay. I believe this one is outside of Bones, which they had released on Friday. I think this was the most current single, and this one feels pretty tame in comparison to the songs that preceded it. Not to say it's particularly a bad thing, but it doesn't feel as just kind of like in your face, or it doesn't feel like it has these kind of like memorable sorts of moments that I feel like a lot of the other tracks that I could point to and be like, oh, okay, I like this part, or I like this part. I do feel like Sean does most of the heavy lifting in terms of carrying both, not only the screaming, but there's these kind of clean yells going off, showing off of his range as a vocalist, which I really do appreciate. I think he's done a great job of, again, using some clean vocals to kind of expand his range, but also like scream wise, I feel like he's got some like really great low parts, but also he's got some really great high screaming parts, and his mid range has always been solid, but I think he really improves on that as well. Buka definitely lends some clean harmonies in the chorus as well as some piano, but otherwise not much else. It's nice to hear a little bit of a bass line from Ja, which is really cool. I think, again, the bass, it definitely has that sort of like punch, considering that they only have one guitar player. I think that all of those sort of heavy, like real, like nasty, like deep riff lines have a lot to stem from the bass, which is really cool. And I think that, again, it makes those songs a little, pop just a little bit more. Not a bad song, but I don't think there was anything particular to me that stuck out that was like, oh my god, like I really enjoyed this one a lot too. So we're gonna move into track number 7, which is Fake Your Own Death. And if you guys are looking for a heavy track, I'm just gonna tell you that this is the one, my guy. Like, this is one that I've been exercising recently while we're in quarantine, and just trying to stay healthy, and every time this song comes on, I just feel like I want to just punch a hole through the wall. It's just that it just got that vibe to it, and I love it. It's just a little bit of an angry one-off track, and I think I appreciate it way more than I probably give it credit for. It definitely has this sort of hardcore feel to it. I know that they've kind of toured with hardcore bands, and I know that they kind of pull some influences from that, but really enjoyed this one particularly. I think that Sean's vocals really just kind of hit on this track in particular. He has some really great like low gutturals going on, and he's got some great high fry screaming going on in this track, and I love the kind of layered harmonies that they've got going on in this track in particular, especially with the screams, and considering his range, I think is absolutely impressive. And while this song isn't just like instrumentally like like a Toast and a Bossy sort of track, I think that it more than makes up for it on that sort of lyrical, like kind of just punch to it, and just the heaviness of the track is just tough. I also really like the kind of like hardcore-esque riff going on at the 1 minute and 25 second mark to around the 1 minute and 50 second mark. Listen, if that part of the track hasn't got you two-stepping in your house or your apartment or in your room or whatever, then I don't know what to tell you, man. That that riff was tight. So really enjoyed this one. Again, nothing too musically to write home about, but if you just want an angry track, then this one is the one to pop on. So we're gonna move into track number 8, which is How to Survive a Funeral. And this song starts off pretty aggressive. I think, again, after Fake Your Own Death, it feels kind of like flatlined in terms of just that aggressiveness. It just kind of keeps that same energy, which is very cool. But the instrumentals just have this certain bite to them, and then again, further added or tacked on by Sean, and just bringing out all those sorts of emotions while he screams is definitely tight. However, at the 38-second mark, there's this really cool like piano and vocal combo from Booka that makes that pre-chorus absolutely pop. I think every time I come back to this track, I really enjoy that pre-chorus. It's very tight, and I think Booka's cleans sound really fantastic. And then that is further stated by a great follow-up in the chorus. I think she sounds absolutely powerful, and I would say, in my opinion, like this is her strongest performance on the record, excluding the track that we'll be talking about next, which is The Attendant. I just feel like her voice in this track in particular just leads this song, and I love the melody that she created in the chorus as well, kind of like the more ethereal background elements. Vocally, I think they're just really solid. I think this one definitely has some of the strongest elements of this record in particular, which is pretty fitting considering that is the title track of the record. And I love the I love just the filth going on in this track, but also like just the beautiful melodies in the chorus. I think that is really solid. I also like that Sean offers some clean harmonies as well in the second/third chorus of the track. I love that little riff breakdown at the 2 minutes and 50-second mark to around the 3 minutes and 11-second mark as well. And I think that the layering going down in this track really makes this one stick out from the rest. It is one that, again, I keep coming back to and being like, oh my god, this is the song. This is the song that I enjoy the most. It's definitely my favorite, if not my favorite track off the record in particular. I think it just kind of encompasses what I love about MTS. I think it's also why I love Erase Me so much. I think they kind of have similarities, but I think the screaming to singing ratio is a little bit less. I think it's a little, there's definitely more screaming, so I'd say it's maybe like 70-30 or like 60-40 in terms of the screaming clean singing ratios. Again, super solid track, definitely one of my favorites off the record without a doubt. So we're going to move into track number 10, which is The Attendant. I kind of alluded to it in the previous track that I just spoke about. And I will say at first, I didn't really like it, especially after the high of How to Survive a Funeral. I wasn't really just like on this track in particular. But I will say, as I've continued to listen to it, and I've listened to it in the kind of context of the full record, I really enjoyed this one, and was just really surprised because it kind of grew on me, and it has this beautiful kind of ballad-esque quality to it. I think it's definitely uncharted territory for MTS. Sean does a lot of clean singing on this track along with Booka as well, and just their combination of male to female vocals is just a really nice vocal dynamic. And just to add on to the like layering aspect of it, the piano is really well thought out. I think the piano melodies that Booka has created in this track are really well done. I think they have been expanded upon more so in this track than I've felt like in all of World Apart, which is definitely very cool. I know this one probably will not be for everybody, but I really thought it was an interesting track. I love the kind of eerie qualities that it has to it as well. And I'm curious how they'll utilize Sean's clean singing as well going further, because he's done a lot of clean singing on this record, which really took me by surprise, mostly because, again, I love his screams. I think his cleans definitely have some potential as well, and I'm curious how they'll balance out both having a female and male singer in that spotlight. But I also also think that again, the cleans and the pianos take more so of the focal point of the song, while the sort of drumming, the bass, and the guitars kind of take a little bit more so of a backseat, which is a nice change of pace, as I had mentioned. And I feel like this one is going to be the black sheep of the record. Most people aren't going to be surprised by it. I also feel like it's going to be a pretty divisive track. I think either people are going to love it or people are going to hate it, you know. But I thought that this one was very well executed, and I'm curious if maybe they'll wind up doing this maybe in future records. So we're going to move into track number 10, which is That's Just Life. I dig this sort of sampled intro, I believe. It's a nice, I feel like it's a nice precursor to what, you know, the rest of this song is going to plan out to. I love this sort of like electronic elements going on in this track, and I like how they're being utilized. For example, at the 45-second mark to around the 58-second mark, there's this little like kind of like drum and bass sort of beat going on that brings a really unique spin to the breakdown, which starts at the minute mark and goes to the 1 minute and 13-second mark as well. I love the little clean guitar riff from Nick, especially in that first chorus where Book is singing over it. It does get more distorted in the second chorus. They definitely kick up like the distortion level on it, which is very interesting. But I appreciated kind of the contrast of not only that first chorus, but in comparison to the second chorus as well. But I would say my particular favorite part of it is Nick. I think his guitar thought process is really interesting, and just the way that he's able to come up with riffs that don't feel like over the top, but definitely fit with the mood of the song. This one definitely utilizes that pretty well. It's a nice heavy closer track. I don't think there was really anything interesting excluding these sort of electronic elements, but I think vocally it was pretty solid, and I think on both the screaming front as well as the clean front, and I think it's a decent closer track. I think maybe How to Survive a Funeral would have been a good closer, but this one isn't bad either. So some pros and cons that I have about the record: I love Sean's screaming. I think his range in that screaming aspect is really tight. As for his cleans, I think his cleans are definitely very good as well. I was definitely taken aback by how good they actually were and how they were thought out. And I'm curious how I'm curious how they'll sound live once shows are back in order. I'm curious to see how his kind of clean singing grows and evolves over not only this album cycle, but the following album cycles, and if they'll wind up including that in new releases coming up. But instrumentally super phenomenal as well. I think all of them really kick ass. Jaya, I'm sorry, dude, if I'm messing up your name, I'm so sorry. Nick does a great job, as well as Jordan. I think instrumentally, I think they're just a tight-knit group, but I think they sound the best when they're all on point and they're firing on all cylinders. So which I think in a good majority of this record, I think they do. It's heavy, it's melodic. I think there's a nice mix of screaming and singing, which again, the singing thing really took me by surprise, especially more so on the Sean front. I thought that was very interesting, and again, I'm curious to see how they plan that out going further. If they're going to include it more, if they're going to just use it sparingly, it's just going to be very interesting to see how they kind of progress with that. And I think there's definitely a solid song structure going on in a lot of these tracks, and I think there's a lot of great memorability to them. Like, if I literally look at the names of the tracks, I can tell you like some of my favorites right off the back, which would be like Bones. Drown With Me was actually really good too. Erase Me is really good. I think Fake Your Own Death is very good, as well as How to Survive a Funeral. And I'd probably throw 10 in there. That's Just Life was really solid as well too. But again, really enjoyed most, if not this entire record. The one con that I have, I feel like Buka is definitely a little bit more underutilized. I think the piano could be incorporated a little bit more, or like her clean singing could be incorporated more, or both. I think they have a lot of room to grow with her, as well as Sean. considering that now he's also taking up the clean singing mantle. I think it would be curious to see if they do some like more harmonies going further, and how they'll be utilized as a band collectively. But very interested to see again the progression of not only this record, but I'm curious to see how the rest of the record's gonna, records that come out in the future are going to kind of pan out. But my overall rating for Make Them Suffer's How to Survive a Funeral, I'm going to be giving it a rating of a 9.7 out of 10. Definitely one of my favorites of this year. I would be remiss to not add it to my list, bars, but I really enjoyed this record a lot. It's a fun record from front to back, and I think some of the little nuanced stuff that I was talking about in the pros and cons, I think are going to really make this album interesting. And I'm curious, how my future listens, especially closer to the end of the year, are gonna fare going further. But let me know in the comments what you think about this record. Do you agree? Do you disagree? I'd love to know your thoughts and opinions on it. So definitely let me know what you guys think about it. If you got it already, it's out digitally. If you're looking to get it physically, it's not coming out until July 13th. So definitely check that out. If you're interested, I'll leave a link to purchase it as well if you feel so inclined to. But like I said, got a few other reviews in the works, and hopefully you guys will be interested in checking those out. And if you made it all the way through to this end point of this review, thank you for watching. Thank you for checking out the channel. If you're new, make sure to hit that subscribe button, hit the bell, hit that thumbs up if you enjoyed it. It really helps my reach and helps me grow and helps me get out to more people like you that enjoy all types of music. So thank you for watching this. My name is Brandon, and I hope you got your fix, and I'll be talking with you soon. Peace.